In our last lesson, we looked at how to go about orchestrating piano music. While this is a useful exercise, it imposes an important constraint that's quite different from what a composer faces every day. The orchestration is limited by the lines, the harmony, and perhaps most important, the character of the original. In this lesson, we'll look at a different kind of orchestration exercise that doesn't have this problem. We will use preliminary sketches, first of melodies, then of whole textures, that can be orchestrated in many different characters. In fact, each of these exercises has a multitude of good solutions. The main goal is to create a strong musical character with the orchestration. This is much closer to a composer's job. Let's start with a short melody. The sketch here deliberately does not include tempo, dynamics, or articulations. It can also be transposed as desired. Our goal here will be to create two very contrasting orchestrations, each with a different character. To do this, we need to focus on those aspects of the music usually not discussed in music analysis courses: tempo, dynamics, articulation, and register. Our first version will aim for a light, rather playful character. That suggests a quick tempo, quiet dynamics, with a bit of a surprise, and light articulation. I've also transposed the melody up an octave. Here it is. The flute in this register is not too loud. The staccato articulation is light and playful. The harp at the start triggers the flute phrase, and then the lower octave C sharp at the end underlines the sudden accent of the melody with a bit of a surprise, the change of register. Now let's do a contrasting version, aiming at a more solemn character. Here I've transposed the melody down 2 octaves in the violas and doubled it 2 octaves lower in the cellos and basses to make it rather heavy. The articulation here creates a slight feeling of syncopation. The accent in the third bar is dramatized with the timpani and the horns. Notice how 2 horns sustain the last note and the other 2 just reinforce the accent. The result is a very different character from the previous version. Below this video, I've included a link to a PDF with other melodic sketches for the student to elaborate in many different ways. Now let's do the same thing for a sketch of a complete texture. Here's an example. Once again, there's no indication of tempo, dynamics, register, or articulation. Here, first is a rather melancholy version for solo oboe and strings. The strings here are all lower than the oboe, so there's no competition for the foreground. Note the change of articulation in the oboe. It becomes legato at the end, suggesting a slight change of mood. The string accompaniment contains 2 subplanes, the violins with an oscillating legato motive, and violas and celli pizzicato providing light harmony. The first violins and the celli only arrive at the cadence. Together with the change in the oboe articulation, they enrich the end of the phrase. Now a very different version. As we can hear, this version is very solemn. The main line is doubled in octaves in the trombones and filled out harmonically by the horns. The tuba plays the bass. The horns sustain the harmony while the trombones breathe. The timpani contribute a more dramatic sound, and the roll at the end creates tension. The strings here fill out the background harmony. Note again that the celli and basses only arrive to reinforce the crescendo into the cadence. The result is a very rich texture. This kind of exercise is good preparation for the kind of work composers and orchestrators do every day. All our imagination and craftsmanship are applied to make the musical character as forceful as possible. As we can see, since the sketches only provide a melodic and harmonic skeleton, there are any number of ways to realize these ideas. As with the melodies, I've supplied other sketches in the PDF document. The link is below.